Hello, students. I welcome you to the third part of our governance in January month. We'll be discussing some flagship schemes, some funds, and some state government initiatives, and some of the awards which have been in news. Okay, so let's start. First one is we're gonna see is Sagarmala project. Now, Sagarmala project is one of the flagship programs of the NDA government under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, the idea is to Sagarmala. So, Sagar means ocean, Mala means a string. So, the idea is to making the port-led port infrastructure. So, idea is port-led development, right? This strategy follows the strategy followed by the China. How China has managed to grow, especially post 1978, and able to develop itself as a manufacturing hub. So we are trying to emulate the same model, right? So the idea is to have a holistic port infrastructure along our coast. It's a port-led development, and many of the things we'll see. So what they want to achieve, first of all, it also includes inland water transport. Okay, we have already discussed inland water ways 11.1.1.1 have been declared, right? So the idea is to develop these ports, connect these ports to the hinterland. Hinterland, you understand, I believe. These are the port, and this is, for example, this is the hinterland. So all the things from this hinterland goes to this port. So hinterland connectivity should be good. The connectivity among the different ports should be good. There should be coastal shipping should be good. Ease of doing business is the main focus, like these things. Okay, one thing you have to do on your end, I'll try to do in the places in news part, but you need to know different ports and specific dimensions of each port. For example, which ports are artificial, which ports are naval bases, right? Which is a tidal port, which are the riverine ports, these things. Very basic general studies stuff. So it has 4 pillars, Sagarmala. In fact, we will do in mains in detail, Sagarmala, pros, cons, and all the challenges. But just to discuss about the scheme, so it has 4 pillars: port modernization, port connectivity, port-led industrialization, and coastal community development. Right? So port modernization means currently whatever the ports are, first of all, capacity augmentation of those ports. Let then have new ports. For example, Vizhinjam port in the Kerala. Then port connectivity. That means I told you inland water transports, logistics park. Okay. Coastal shipping. Then port-led industrialization. That means port-based SEZ or coastal economic zone. Yeah, that is coastal employment zone, coastal economic zone. Then coastal community development. Those who are living in those areas, they need to be skilled. Their capacity building should be done. Fishing livelihood opportunities should be improved. Food processing industry. So integral and holistic development of the port at the port. That is why a port-led development. Now, if we see why it was done, so from one snapshot you can see, for example, India and China, our GDP are 5x. For example, China's GDP is around 5 times more than us, but you can see cost of energy is more in India. That means we are paying more for the energy because our modal mix is not good. It is predominantly road driven, rail driven. Not the high percentage is not there of inland waters, whereas China has a very good infrastructure of inland water transport, right? First thing is that. Then you can see, though our GDP is 5 times, but you can see here everything is more than China. If it is 5x, then that's no issue. But you can see container traffic 16 into what India has. So these things goes to show that why we need to know the port-led development and where we are lagging as compared to China. So the idea with the Sagarmala infrastructure, the vision is to double our share of the waterways, right? At least increase up to 6%. Then boost our exports, logistics cost improve, like lower the logistics cost and all these things, and create the new jobs. Getting my point? Right. So this is Sagarmala project. This much is information relevant for us. If any new development comes, we'll add on to it. Next is soil health card. Again, a very old, we are discussing the flagship schemes, right? So big schemes. So first of all, soil health card introduced in 2014-15. The idea was to make sure that particular place, what are the requirement of the place soil, according to that the input should be given, right? So data driven input should be given. So the card is introduced every 3 years. A lot of confusion is there among 2 to 3 years. I have taken this screenshot right from the FAQ of the soil health card, so I believe it is right, because many sites, in fact, one of the vision monthly document also shows 2 years. In PIB, in some places it didn't show 2 years, but in soil health card it is mentioned 3 years. So we'll take soil health card as the genuine document, right? So the soil health card provides the information on the nutrient status of their soil and how much extra is needed and which type of crop they should um, have with respect to the soil they have, right? So what is soil health card? Within the soil health card, 12 informations are given, right? First is the macronutrient. So there are three macronutrient trees: NPK. This is NPK. Then secondary nutrient sulfur. Then these are the micronutrients. So remember, please remember the names. Make a code or do something. So it is zinc, iron, copper, manganese, and boron, BO. Then some physical parameters, that is pH, electrical conductivity, and organic carbon. So physical parameters. So based upon these 12 parameters, the soil health, they indicate this much fertilizer is required and this much what amendment you must do. Getting my point? Okay. This is soil health card, as I told you. So this is like this, right? So 12 thing: boron, organic carbon, starting pH, EC, electrical conductivity, like that, right? Okay. So in fact, government considers soil health card as one of its flagship schemes and touts it as one of the successful schemes. For example, you can see on February they have celebrated the 5 years of the soil health card scheme, right? Okay. Next is Kusum scheme. It's very important scheme for government, because in the recent budget also they have augmented this scheme. So the idea of the Kusum scheme, that is Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Utthan Maha Abhiyan. That means the idea of the Kusum scheme, first of all, energy sufficiency, and for the farmer, sustainable irrigation, and some income for the farmer. So giving some income to the farmer. So the idea was given that Annadata, that is the farmer, are turned into Urja Data. We'll see how. Okay, so some extra, to provide extra by giving them an option to sell their additional power. So they will also sell their additional power. Overall architecture is to have around 26-25 gigawatt of the solar energy. So they will be augmenting that solar energy from this scheme. Okay, it will be decentralized solar production. So there are basically three components of the scheme. Acha, under which ministry it is there? Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Okay, right. So let us see one component of every component one by one. First component is 10,000 megawatt of decentralized ground mounted grid connected solar. For example, you have a land, you have, let's say, a barren land, or you have normal land. Now you have established the solar panel on your farm. Now this solar panel should be, in first component, should be grid connected. Okay, so if it is grid connected, then, and watch power plant capacity should be between 500 kilowatt to 2 megawatt. Okay, so it can be set up by individual farmer, cooperative, panchayat, or the farmer produce organization. So when you produce this electricity, it will be taken by the DISCOMs, distribution companies, and the incentive will be given to the DISCOM, so that they also come and take the electricity, take energy from here. Getting my point? So incentive for both. So from here, the farmer will get additional income. They will get additional money. Their electricity will be purchased by the DISCOMs at the tariff decided by the respective state electricity regulatory commission. Okay. Then next component is off-grid solar pump. So from the name itself, off-grid solar pump, that means not grid connected is not there, but some solar pumps will be given for the field. Now solar pumps will be given so that, first of all, you are not depending upon the electrical pump. So it is said to provide de-dieseling of the agriculture. Okay, de-dieseling of the agricultural sector. So from where the cost will come? So 30% will be given by the center and the state, 30-30, and remaining 40% have to be paid by the farmer for the off-grid solar pump. Okay, and out of that 30% they can take from the bank itself. Getting my point? Third component is solarization of the off-grid connected electrical pump. So for example, you already have an electric pump, so solarization of that. Okay, right? So first of all, with he will be able to have the energy for irrigation need, then additional he can also sell. Getting my point? So this is the three components. Now if the question will be asked, question will not be too much in detail, I'll say. They can ask you with respect to the components and the some shallow level of the component you must have. So what will be the effort, what will be the benefits? For example, the government should now need not to pay subsidy for the agriculture, electricity for the agriculture, right? Because now they have become itself the energy producers, the farmer, instead of the energy taker. So that will reduce the burden on the discoms, so their financial health will improve. Okay, decentralized solar production will be there. So these will be and as I told you, de-dieselization of the agricultural sector. So these will be the benefits apart from the other benefits. Now in the recent budget, they have also again mentioned this Annadata can be the Urja Data too. Then they want to expand the scheme. So 20 lakh farmer for setting up, they will provide 20 lakh farmer setting up standalone the solar pump, and 15 lakh farmer for their solarize their grid connected solar pump. So component 2 and component 3, component B or component C. Okay, so this is this. Next is Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan. So what is this? Under Ministry of Panchayati Raj. Only two Ministry of Panchayati Raj, so we'll cover this in a cluster. We'll cover few ministries, those who have very less schemes. So it's a centrally sponsored scheme. So idea of the Gram Swaraj Abhiyan is the capacity augmentation of the panchayats or the local level institutions. For example, in many of the area, panchayats are not there. So in the non-part 9 areas, so there also whatever the local rural government will be there, they will be supported for the capacity augmentation, right? The idea is to strengthening the PRI for achieving the sustainable development goal with the main thrust on the convergence with Mission Antodaya. So Mission Antodaya last time we have seen. Mission Antodaya we have seen, right? Mission Antodaya is for the convergence based mechanism, accountability to achieve the targets. No money was given for Mission Antodaya. So Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan is basically, as I told you, the idea is to capacity building, fund, function, functionaries. I hope you have heard. So third part, functionary part. Okay, so this is Gram Swaraj Abhiyan for the self-sufficiency, for efficiency of the Gram local service, local self-governments. Next is Atal Pension Yojana. So Atal Pension Yojana under which ministry? Ministry of Finance. Okay, so it is under PFRDA for the unorganized sector who do not have already social security, who do not have age-old social security. Now the government has come up with so many social security schemes, right? It is one of them. So what the Atal Pension Yojana is, you can take the entry from 18 to 40. Between 18 to 40, you can take the entry in the scheme, and post 60, you will get some sort of pension. What you need to remember, in fact, one question has been asked, so I believe no questions can be asked on it. No question will be asked on it because they already have some very basic, common, very basic current affair based scheme already are there, right? So who will be able to apply? All the eligible family members. That means, for example, family has 5 members. So if 2 to 3 members are eligible, they can also avail the same scheme, irrespective how many members they are there. Because that's why what one of the question has already been asked on this front. So for example, they have given this index. For example, you are 18 years of age and you contribute 210 rupees per month for next 42 years. Okay, then you will be paid 5,000 rupees per month post 60 years. Getting my point? So they have given this grid. How much money you have to spend? For example, if you want 1,000 rupee per month post 60, so you should pay 42 rupees per month, right? And you will get 1,000 rupees for 42 years if you are joining at 18 years, and obviously this amount will increase or decrease depending upon the which year you want to win, how much money you want post your retirement or after 60 years. So for example, if you die, then the money will be given to your spouse. If your spouse also die, then the money will be given to the nominee. Okay, that's it. Now one question been asked on APY, sorry, Atal Pension Yojana. So which of the following statement is correct? It's a minimum guarantee pension scheme mainly targeted at the unorganized sector. Okay, fine. Then only one member of the family can join the scheme. Answer is no. In fact, if you just go with the logic, common sense also. So only one member of the family can join. Can government do this? Unorganized sector, already a lot of problems they are facing. Can they restrict such schemes for only one member of the family? Answer is no. So when two is wrong, then this and this becomes wrong. Only this and this can be right. Then check number 3. Same amount of pension for the spouse for life after the subscriber death. This is the fact that you need to remember. Because in many of the scheme, half of the amount is there. Right? So this is there, then answer will be C. Now next part is Make in India. Again a very generic scheme and very flagship scheme, I'll say. So which ministry? First of all, you need to remember Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, this is the part which is important. So the objectives are obviously to create 10 crore jobs by 2022. Okay. There have been many promises on Make in India. In fact, many analyses have come that Make in India has not been able to deliver the results which it sought to achieve. To increase the GDP contribution to 25%. In fact, you can expect a question on Make in India based Make in India, the appraisal of Make in India in the mains. So the idea was based on 4 pillars. What we say philosophical idea or the change in strategy, 4 pillars. New processes. So focus on ease of doing business, focus on entrepreneurship, right? Then new infrastructure, as we have discussed Sagarmala, Bharatmala, right? So new infrastructure, smart cities, industrial corridors like this, state-of-art technology, infrastructure for IPR. Then new sectors. So you have seen progressively government has increased FDI range in the sectors such as defense manufacturing, insurance, construction, railway infrastructure. Then talking about new mindset. The government should not be a regulator, it should be a facilitator. In fact, currently you are also seeing in the COVID-19 time, many of the governments are relaxing the labor laws. Now, pros and cons can be seen, but government should be seen as a facilitator, not a regulator or inhibitor of the progress. Some investor facilitating cells have been created for hand holding and aftercare support, right, for the industries. Then so these are the flagship schemes that we're going to discuss. Then some funds in use. The first is Farmer Innovation Fund. So this fund will be created under ICAR. Now the amount is not decided yet. For example, ICAR chief also says that from 1 crore or any amount can be given. So the idea is obviously, so Farmer Innovation Fund. So some fund will be given for the research and development to help farmers. Right? Just remember, if the question asked, it is for the ICAR. Next is Telecommunication, Consumer Education and Protection Fund. So from the name itself, Consumer Education and the Protection Fund. So the money, wherever from it comes from, it will go to the consumer protection. Now question is from where the money will come. So money will come from the telecos will give the money to the fund from the excess charges, the security deposit into this unclaimed. So whatever the unclaimed money they have, these telecos, this money will go to the this protection fund. Okay, so this is the obviously the use of this fund will be for the consumer protection and the consumer education. Right. Next is Bhartiya Poshan. For example, many people take the security deposit, they do not reclaim the security deposit. So many of the unclaimed money is there. Similarly, a lot of unclaimed money is in the banks also. Many of the bank scam happen because of that unclaimed money. Next is Bhartiya Poshan Krishi Kosh. Now, first of all, this Kosh is not any fund, but I've just kept it because Kosh is basically fund. But the idea is this particular initiative has been announced by the Ministry of Women and Child in collaboration with Bills and Melinda Gates Foundation. So what they want to achieve? They want to reduce the SDG 2. So zero hunger or zero malnutrition, right? Elimination of the hidden hunger. So the idea is to create a repository of the diverse crop across the 128 agroclimatic regions of the India, right? One of the initiatives, one of the initiatives or one of the solutions identified for the tackling the malnutrition is to have the agroclimatic specific crop which can give the more nutrition to the people, right? So the idea is to improve the nutritional value of more than 100 crops if they are produced in a specific agroclimatic region, right? So the Bharatiya Poshan Krishi Kosh Abhiyan, what are the action programs? For example, you can see very generic: calorie rich diet for women, expected women and children, the pregnant women's. Then pulses, focus on the pulses. Then focus on the vitamin A, vitamin B, iron and zinc, the problem of anemia among the girls, right? Ensuring clean water, not having the accessibility to the clean water is one of the problems of the malnutrition. Then improving the nutritional literacy, making sure that only dal chawal, right? Many of the times in midday meal, it has been seen that only dal chawal is being served, the pulse and the rice, and that will not lead to the nutrition, right? So it will create a repository of the different crops across the agroclimatic region. Now, what are the different agroclimatic region? I hope please do see in your geography portion, right? Okay, let's move. Some state government initiative. First is Shamat land. So Shamat land is a term used in the Punjab. It's been in the controversy also. So it is a land owned by the village panchayat, right? This land is used for the cultivation and now actually it was promised to the Dalits, many of the land. Now the government has said that they will auction some of the land to create land banks and incentivize the industrial people to come. The government will give these lands to the industry for MSME. So some industrial development happens, some employment comes like that in the state. However, the opposition has criticized the issue. They have said because 1/3 of the Shamat land are reserved for Dalits. So if it is done, then obviously the Dalits will lose their hold over the grip over the land. And again, the land will go to the well-offs. So many of the opposition party are protesting that the government is giving this money at the throwaway prices. So there are some kickbacks to the government from the people who will be getting some lands. So this should not be done because that will be an atrocity on the or injustice to the Dalits. Next is Arundhati Gold Scheme. So this gold scheme is by the Assam government. The idea is to give the 10 grams worth of gold to the bride who is getting married, but there are some conditions that she should have at least read till 10th class and registration of marriage is must. Okay. Next is, and some of the conditions also there. So if the question will be asked, they won't ask you a specific question. They'll ask, if the question asks, they'll ask you in which state it is. That's it. Next is India's first super fab lab inaugurated in Kerala. So super fab means fabricated lab. So this is a lab in which it is said to be a lab which can create anything, right? We'll see about it. So it's a laboratory to function collaboration with the MIT US, right? MIT Institute, everyone must have heard of it. So the lab is installed in collaboration with the startup mission of the Kerala itself. Kerala Startup Mission. Okay. So the laboratory will break down the barriers between physical and the digital world. So it is said to be the laboratory how to make almost everything, colloquially known as, right? So it will have a lot of cutting edge technologies, right? For example, garage, like a garage. So providing tools to the people to come there and create things, right? Okay. So remember, it's in the Kerala. Next is Subhash Chandra Bose Aapda Prabandhan Puruskar. So Aapda Prabandhan is disaster management. So Home Ministry is responsible. Overarching disaster management is basically the role of the state government, but which is the central ministry responsible? MHA. So Ministry of Home Affairs is responsible for this, for contribution in the field of disaster management. So the institution will get certificate and the cash prize for 51 lakh. Okay. So this is Subhash Chandra Bose Aapda Prabandhan Puruskar by the NDMA. Next is last fact of the day. That is fact of the session. That is Surya Prakash Committee. Surya Prakash Committee. Surya Prakash is the Prasar Bharati chairman. So the idea was to merge Lok Sabha TV and Rajya Sabha TV. Right. So why these two be merged? Because the proceedings of the parliament, only a few of the days the parliament sits around 100 around days. So for the rest of the year, there is no as such regular programs. But in fact, Rajya Sabha TV has the one of the best programs, I'll say, on the TV itself. However, the idea is to merge these two channels, right? So this committee is for that purpose. So Rajya Sabha TV, if you remember, launched in 2011. It was the brainchild, or the what we say, the dream project of the Hamid Ansari, then Vice President of India. Right? Okay. So I think this much is we gonna read today. Let's revise. Starting with Sagarmala project. So we read about different things, why we need port-led development. Rest of the things are main centric. So we will see something in mains. Then soil health card. Soil health card. The idea is every 3 year and 12. Please remember the 12 indicators that they are catering to. Then Kusum. Remember the 3 components. Okay. Then in the budget, what the provisions has been done for the Kusum scheme. That's why Kusum scheme becomes more important, because it is mentioned in the budget. Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, right? SDG achieve. We have to achieve SDG through empowerment of the PRIs. Next, Atal Pension Yojana, not important for this year. Then Make in India initiative, again, we're not very specific, some sort of main centric, but we have to cover it in our flagship scheme. That's why we are covering it. Next, some of the funds. Farmer Innovation Fund by ICAR, right? The amount has not been decided yet. Then Telecommunication Consumer Education and Protection Fund. Then Bharatiya Poshan Krishi Kosh. This one is important, because some big agencies are involved, and the topic itself is big, as in terms of its significance itself is big. Then Shamat land in the Punjab. Then Arundhati Gold scheme for in Assam government. And finally Super Fab Lab in Kerala and Surya Prakash committee, and some prize for the disaster management. Right, so with this we finish our session 3 governance. So now we will move on to international relations from next session. Right, so see you in the next class, everyone. Bye bye for now.